I never met her.
Let the record reflect we reconvene with all members present. Council President Pat Rowe, Councilman Ben Wolkowitz, and Councilwoman Maureen Byrne are all absent excused. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion for the executive minutes of February 26, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Already discussed. All in favor?
Aye.
And for the regular minutes of February 26, 2018?
I'll move them.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome. As we recovered from 2 storms and we're expecting a little snow tonight, but last I looked at the percent of anything more than 3 inches is going down rapidly. So we're counting on a relative dusting. And if I'm wrong, I'm in big trouble now, right, Ken? And speaking of our Director of Public Works, Ken O'Brien, I'm sorry I'm going to embarrass him, but was handed an interesting story that Ken was on his way home along Route 80 and saw a car kind of not going full speed and kind of drifting off to the side. He pulled up to the side and saw that the driver was in medical distress, was passed out, and the passenger was trying to take over. So he gave him some instructions, was able to get them to the side of the road, called 911, New Jersey State Police, quickly arrived and with AED and started administrating CPR, and troopers and Parsippany squad were all there. And it's, many people may just keep driving along, but life can be saved by being attentive and taking that leadership. So Ken, thank you for doing that. A couple of happenings this weekend. It was a fairly busy one. Saturday, went off to Morristown for the 2nd annual colder than normal St. Patrick's Day Parade. But it was, as cold as it was 20 degrees warmer than last year. So Geraldine started up nicely and made the whole parade. It was great to see Chief Lou there with Geraldine bringing up the rear of the parade. So Madison was well represented. Also, what was supposed to happen on Saturday but got pushed to Sunday was End Hunger 3.8. This is a project of the Madison Rotary Club under the concept that every 3.8 seconds someone dies from hunger. And so this was the 3rd annual. Over 150,000 meals were packaged on Sunday, and that was despite the fact that this event was supposed to happen on Saturday. A truck had broken down, got pushed, and all the volunteers and then some returned on Sunday. And after that, I was able to go to the First Baptist Church of Madison, where they ordained their first woman deacon. And so a big day in the history of First Baptist Church, and it's a name that many of you will recognize, Jackie Love, who was a longtime member of as a commissioner of Housing Authority, is the first woman deacon. So it was a great milestone for her. So if you see her, please congratulate her. Our employee for the month of March is Russ Brown, construction official. His commitment, professionalism, and dedication whenever asked for assistance. Anyone that has any interaction with the building department knows that Russ goes above and beyond, but it's not just in what's in his job description, it's what he does even beyond that. And one of these examples, on his own time, he went to a home of a Madison resident to repair a generator just prior to the recent snowstorms to make sure that they had power for life-saving medical equipment in their house. That is truly setting an example for all. So if you see Russ, please congratulate him. As I start off, we've been through some interesting weather, and I'm going to be calling up several people shortly for a proclamation, but I just want to talk a little bit about our response to the storm. You know, it's in meetings that every time we get together to prepare for something, there's no rule book that covers every potential storm. And you learn something new each time, and you know even if you've done a great job, as we had happen here in Madison, we can still do better. And that's the attitude that our staff here in all departments take. We do great work, and we can do better. And this was a great example. As Madison if there was a special map that went from green to red to show conditions, there would have been an island of green over Madison and a whole lot of red over the neighboring communities as they were suffering from the recovery effort. Keep in mind that not only did our electric department respond quickly in restoring, the last home came online, I think 9 a.m. Friday morning, but the other thing that really may have gone unnoticed is the fact that the number of outages, there were no widespread outages, there were localized ones. Meanwhile, in neighboring towns, you saw outages that numbered all surrounding towns, both Chatham's, Florham Park, Morristown, Morris Township, Harding Township, all had outages in the thousands plus. And so that is not the recovery effort that makes that happen. It's the work that happens, as I've said before, the work on a sunny day makes it far easier to recover from that cloudy, stormy day. Whether it's line clearance, whether it's making sure our poles get replaced on a regular basis, that is the work that is done on a daily basis here in Madison, and we should all be very proud of what happened. And we're going to, in just a few minutes, stay tuned, we'll be calling up everyone that made this effort great. I just want to share, some of you already said this, saw this on the website. I'm not going to read my whole letter, but just want to cover part of it. I want to thank all the residents who heeded the warnings and got off the roads before the storm hit. This storm was a good reminder of the importance of respecting warnings. It started slowly, but when it hit, it intensified quickly. You probably heard of the reports of motorists stranded on routes 24, 287, and 280, and we had some stranded here in Madison. Those who ignored the warnings put themselves and others in danger, while also hampering the recovery effort. This is a good reminder for all in future storms. And I want to thank those who shoveled out a neighbor in need or loaned a generator to a friend without power, or the example of Russ Brown, who went and repaired a generator. Madison always steps up at times like this, and we saw another great example of our sense of community. And of course, I need to thank our Department of Public Works, Electric Department. DPW had plows out as the storm intensified, clearing the roads for hours afterwards, and they were working long hours getting our downtown prepared and widening roads throughout the town. Our electric crew worked long hours under difficult conditions. On the Friday storm, in winds that were well into 30 miles an hour, and once it hits 40, they've got to get out of the bucket. It was tough enough to stand on the ground watching them, but to have them up in the bucket, bringing people online was very impressive. So if you see any borough employee in the next few days and weeks and months, please thank them. And this effort was not just here in Madison, but also in our neighboring towns. We are blessed to have our own electric utility. And so as Madison was restored, we worked with JCP&L, had to make some phone calls to make it all happen, to the governor's office and BPU and all, but our electric company has been in Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, Morris Township, and as we speak, they're in Berkeley Heights right now helping restore a neighborhood. And I want to share an email I received from the mayor of Chatham Borough, Mayor Bruce Harris. I honestly don't know the words that will properly convey our gratitude for all you and Ray and others have done to make arrangements for Madison Electric to help restore power in Chatham. JCP&L is clearly overwhelmed, and as you know, we have hundreds of residents who have been without power for days, and many of the schools are without power. As the length of these outages increases, patience wears thin, tempers fray, and your generous offer will help our beleaguered residents resume their lives. More importantly, your offer reflects our century-plus tradition of partnership and cooperation, and a friendship between municipalities that will we continue to value highly. And as I emailed back to Mayor Harris, I said that I love the concept friendship between municipalities. On behalf of myself, the Borough Council, our residents, thank you very much. Sincerely, Bruce Harris, Mayor. So let me come down and do a proclamation or two. If we can get some representatives from police, fire, DPW, ambulance corps, and we probably don't have anyone from the electric department because they're probably in Berkeley Heights. So we'll have to recognize them at another time. Whereas 2 serious nor'easters hit New Jersey within the past week, and whereas the wind and rain from the first storm crippled many neighboring towns with extensive blackouts, and whereas the second storm dumped over 20 inches of snow, causing major tree damage and statewide blackouts, and whereas, thanks to dedicated members of Madison Electric Utility who work round the clock, any loss of power was restored to Madison neighborhoods, making Madison one of the first municipalities to have power restored. And whereas the Department of Public Works employees worked tirelessly to plow the streets of the borough so the roads were kept open. And whereas the Madison Police Department, Fire Department, Ambulance Squad did an outstanding job of keeping residents in town safe throughout the storm. Now, therefore, I, Robert H. Conley, the Mayor of Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body, hereby extend thanks and appreciation to the Borough of Madison Electric Department, Department of Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, and Madison Volunteer Ambulance Corps for their hard work and dedication and efforts in keeping the residents of Madison, the Borough of Madison, safe. And I know all that will be watching this at home later on say thank you so much also. Thank you. Yep. A little photo op here. Yeah, it's going to rotate around.
It.
Yes, yep. We kind of overspent the budget, so we only got one of these. There's the other. All right, representatives for the International Day of Happiness, Paint the Town Yellow. Please come on up. Everyone. Come on up.
He's up there too. There should be no. Thanks for taking pictures.
This is a very special proclamation, and again shows how Madison leads the way in so many different areas. Shortly, we're going to be discussing school safety and security, and we know that it is raising mental health awareness is our first fight against violence against the innocent. So we commend every one of you for taking this effort. And it's an honor to present this proclamation and to kick off this event on Sunday. Whereas, first celebrated in 2012, the United Nations adopted a resolution to bring about awareness of International Day of Happiness, which is observed on March 20th each year to raise awareness of the importance of the pursuit of happiness and well-being. And whereas depression affects over 18 million adults in any given year, is the leading cause of disability for ages 15 to 44, and the primary reason someone dies of suicide, resulting in over 38,000 deaths per year, making suicide the fourth leading cause of death for adults between the ages of 18 and 65. And whereas the Borough of Madison, the Downtown Development Commission, the Madison Arts and Culture Alliance, Madison Area YMCA, Short Stories Bookshop and Community Hub, and the Madison Chamber of Commerce, in collaboration with You, Me, We, will hold a town-wide celebration March through May to brighten Madison and to shine a light on depression and mental health awareness, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, which is observed in May by painting the town yellow. Yellow there. Yellow. and my yellow shirt's in my closet, but I'll wear it on Sunday. Whereas the borough will feature an exhibition of optimism works by an array of artists featuring International Optimism Yellow with open reception scheduled for March 18th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Peg Williams Gallery at Short Stories Bookshop and Community Hub. And whereas citizens can make a difference by brightening lives of the community through civic engagement, activities and collaborations by visiting participating shops. When we get to too many words, I start having trouble, so I apologize. And organizations in town throughout the month of March through May. And we hereby appoint the following as honorary ambassadors of optimism: Sarah Braverman, Maureen Byrne, Karen Giambra, Sari Lebwell, Cara Maximo, Paul Morgan, Jane Quinn, Mia Rejo, Gwen Riddick, Barbara Short, Whitney Sabala, Lisa Sprague, Deborah Stocker, and Melanie Tomaszewski. Therefore, I, Robert H. Conley, that should be the easiest part here, the Mayor of Borough of Madison, on behalf of the governing body, hereby proclaim March 20th, 2018 as International Day of Happiness in the Borough of Madison to increase public understanding of the importance of pursuit of happiness and well-being, and ask residents to show their support by wearing the yellow on March 20th. Whitney would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor Conley. I just wanted to say a few words because last year was the first inaugural year that the town, the mayor and the borough, everyone really got behind this, and it was really, really special. I was part of the creation of the holiday from a little bit afar, working with some folks at the UN. This year marks the 6th anniversary of that holiday. So Madison immediately embraced it last year as they kind of understood a little bit more about what it was. And my mission last year was to really find a way, in partnership with Riley John Donald, who's not here, through UMIWE, to kind of bridge this holiday, this global holiday, to the people. It's great that academia and governments are talking about this holiday as a sense of well-being, but there was nothing really happening to bridge it to communities and making sure that we can really live what it's all about. So it was really the work of these people, both last year and this year, that helped to bring this to fruition. And Madison really is and was the very first town to take this on, not only by making this proclamation, but by embracing this campaign that we created called Paint the Town Yellow. And I'm happy to also announce that this year another town has also embraced it. So the whole idea was to create something that could be replicated from town to town. And so our hope is that as each year continues, we'll continue to embrace and support it here, but also that more towns take it on. So without further ado, I just wanted to again thank the town. It really does take a village to pull this together, and everyone here, the newfound ambassadors of optimism, they each represent a cross-section of what this whole campaign is all about. So Sally has been spearheading the gallery, the Into Yellow art show and exhibition at Short Stories. Lisa oversees the Project Community Pride at the YMCA. We've got Cara, who is a positive psychologist, who helped to pull together the entire speaker series that will be kicking off March 28th through the beginning of May, representing a cross-section of speakers, which are all kid-friendly, parent-friendly, and they're going to be talking about all different subjects, covering, a bunch of matters. And then Paul, who really is helping us spread the word. He made an amazing video that hopefully many of you saw through Facebook and some other means. So without him, that many fewer people would have known about this. So thank you to all of you guys and to the town for really supporting this. Lisa, did you want to say anything on behalf of?
So on behalf of the Madison Area YMCA, Project Community Pride, and the Community Mental Health Initiative, I really just want to thank the town of Madison for embracing this wonderful and important initiative and supporting our program, which is a beneficiary of this initiative as well. Not only are we spreading optimism, but we're raising awareness around depression and mental illness and allowing those in need to feel more comfortable and reaching out for help. And I'm fortunate to see firsthand, Cara as well, of, the power of reducing stigma and help. And this is just an amazing initiative to help the overall wellness of Madison and our families. So thank you, and thank you to UMIWE for.
Christine and Lindsay, you got the pictures of you? All right. We'll see you Sunday at Short Stories. Thank you for all your work.
And thank you to Lisa, too. Lisa's
Yes, thank you, Lisa Ellis.
Okay. Oh,
Okay, thank you. Now on to reports from committees.
oh, I can do it.
Public Works and Engineering, Ms. Vitale.
Do it there. No, so do it like this.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the engineering report. Of course, the two significant northeast storms minimized the field construction progress over the past 2 weeks. Central Avenue Water Main Replacement Project has 2,300 feet of new main installed to date. General contractor Joe Med Construction has progressed west of Fairview Avenue and is heading towards Barden Street. Sewer cleaning and videotape work by the National Water Main Cleaning Company continues, and the Prospect Street final payment of $43,125 is being processed from NJDOT for the 216 municipal aid project closeout. The Community Development Block Grant application for Community Place water main replacement in the amount of $80,000 was received, and preliminary approval from the county. So that's very good. That's another grant that we've gotten. This is the second one of $80,000. The state has provided positive feedback on funding the balance of the Bailey Eller Danford Field project through Madison's project application to the Hazardous Discharge Site Remediation Fund. So from DPW, in between snow plowing, they serviced and repaired police vehicles, repaired a Toro Z mower, getting ready for the grass. I don't know if we're going to see any, but for a while. Repaired damaged snow plows, repaired chainsaws, and then found time to go to safety classes, and they assisted. This is the mechanics department, and they assisted in the snow removal. Parks did their general park maintenance. They drained the ice pond down on Rosedale. They were actually starting to remove leaves from the park and getting the baseball fields ready. They collected recycling and yard waste and tree branches removal, and of course snow removal and salting. The roads department they did storm preparation and storm tree management and stump removal, repair and install street signs, snow removal, and sanding. The sewer department continues to do daily operations and maintenance of all the lift stations and the catch basins that need cleaning and repair. Sewer line cleaning, they still have markouts for demolitions, PSE&G, and water department excavation. And of course, they helped with the with the storm snow plowing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And with Health, Finance, and Community Affairs, Ms. Bailey.
Right. Okay, I'm going to start with the clerk's office, Mayor. In anticipation of the June 5th primary election, the filing deadline for nomination petitions for municipal office is April 2nd, 2018. Forms are available in the Borough Clerk's office. Voter registration forms, as well as a mail-in ballot application, are also available in the Borough's Clerk's office or online, morriselections.org. From the Finance Department, the Chief Financial Officer is in the process of preparing 2 state budget documents. The first is the official standard state budget document, which is prepared annually by the Borough of Madison. The second document is called the user-friendly budget, but if you see it, it's really not user-friendly. This is a relatively new document which is mandated by the state of New Jersey. These documents should be completed on or before March 23rd. They're going to be distributed to the council at our next council meeting, where we hope to introduce the budget. We will introduce the budget. The Chief Financial Officer, in concert with Borough Administrator Cody, recently invested $10 million in 3- and 6-month certificates of deposit. The Borough Council annually approves a cash management plan that includes policies regarding the investment of funds. So the pricing was requested from over 10 banks, and the borough received rates that were 80 to 90 basis points above the rate the borough receives on a regular bank deposit. And from the Utility Billing Department, the CFO is working with the staff on purchasing over $350,000 in smart water and electric meters. And over the coming months, a college intern will be helping our meter reading staff on this important project. And the hope is to install 1,500 new meters by the end of the summer. And we want to thank senior meter reader Jim Trimble for spearheading this important project. And please note on resolutions tonight, Resolution 100 formalizes the energy rate dividend that we voted on last council meeting. And now we're going to go to health. The Health Department continues to review plans for new retail food establishments in the borough, and our health educator is continuing to build a social media presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Rosenet. And additionally, there's an educational display with health information at the library. 2018 dog and cat license renewals are now past due, and we are required to impose a $10 late fee in addition to the registration fee. We encourage residents who have not renewed their license to do so ASAP to avoid any additional costs. And there will be 3 health clinics this spring. Stay tuned for dates and locations. One will be men's cancer screening, women's health screening, and comprehensive metabolic profile screening. And now from Community Affairs. The Director of Business Development report, planning for the CECM Around the Business World in 90 Minutes event on March 20th, and the annual cocktail party and networking event on April 10th is underway. Work has begun on the creation of a management plan for the community space on Kings Road. The space is expected to be finished later this spring. In addition to Bottle Hill Tavern and Madison Bagel on Waverly Place, Fruitables on Main Street, and a new restaurant called Central in Maine, located at 3 Central Avenue, will be opening later this spring. And there will also be, this will be another location for Chef Leah Giacconi of South and Pine in Morristown. Downtown Development Commission 2018 Taste of Madison will be held on Monday, March 19th at Brook Lake Country Club. Planning is underway and sponsorship letters have been sent. Tickets are now available at tasteofmadison.org, and please plan to attend this great event. 2018 is the 20th anniversary of May Day. The first event took place on May 2nd, 1998. The planning has begun, and it will be held on May 5th this year. The T-shirt art contest details have been distributed to the elementary schools, and the contest is open to students in grades K through 5th, and the deadline for submission is this Friday, March 16th. And from the Chamber of Commerce, the 2018 Home Expo will once again be held on Saturday, April 28th at the Madison Junior School, and the Chamber's annual Easter Fun Fest is scheduled for Saturday, March 24th, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. The Easter Bunny will be strolling through the business district, and businesses are encouraged to participate in handing out candy and toy-filled Easter eggs to children as they visit their businesses with their parents. And this spring, the Madison Area Chamber of Commerce is publishing 10,000 copies of its very own 2018-2019 edition of the Madison Map. This map is 21 inches by 14 inches, but it folds into a very compact pocket size and includes updated chamber business directory, organized by category, general information about the business district, details about events and programs in downtown Madison. And this is to inform the residents, visitors, and students. And it is being an advertising opportunity for all your organizations. That's it. Thank you.
Right. And Utilities and Public Safety, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor has pretty much summarized all of the activities of the departments to date, so I will be very, very brief, okay? One important issue for the police department is that there's a guy that I've worked with at the farmers market. Lisa and I worked with the farmers market, Chief Auxiliary Police Chief John Granado. He's retiring at the end of March, and we want to wish him well and just announce that he is retiring. He was a great guy, a wonderful volunteer, and just he did a terrific job for us down at the farmers market. So thank you very much for that. Good luck to him. For the fire department, during this recent snowstorm Quinn event, the fire department had additional career and volunteer personnel manned fire headquarters during the storm from 8:30 a.m. Wednesday, March 7th until Thursday, March 8th at 5:30 p.m. During this period of time, the fire department responded to 21 calls for assistance of various kinds. I won't go through with the details of all those, but they did. So thank you for that. Now for the electric department. They had, during the March 2nd storm, they responded to 6 significant calls for various things, from trees being blown down to trees falling on primary wires, just about anything you can imagine related to electrical. And they did that day and night, as the mayor indicated. In the March 7th storm, they had 4 crews fixing house services, cutting off trees off power lines all day and night. They had 3 crews working on downlines. And during that time, they also fielded over 400 to 500 reports, ranging from branches on wires to reports of no power. Phenomenal job by the electric department. Everybody but the electric department is what I'm reporting on. So, for the water department, the significant thing, I took a tour of all the wells, all the towers, everything related to the water department. The most phenomenal thing, and I would urge, if anybody on the council and the mayor has not done it, to go do that. It's just phenomenal. Great stuff. While the water department plowed and removed trees from roadways during the recent storm Quinn, that covered Madison with 22 inches of snow, they also continued to supply uninterrupted water service to residents, even on emergency-generated power. So that's pretty much it for me for those 4 departments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any communications or petitions?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor and Council were CC'd on a letter from Mine Hills Mayor Sam Morris to Governor Murphy regarding the power outages. That was dated March the 9th.
Thank you. This is our first of 2 invitations for discussion. This is limited to items on our agenda discussions or our resolutions. The agenda discussion items tonight are Board of Education update and security, and a chance to meet our relatively new superintendent. Shade Tree Management Board report, March for Our Lives community send-off, land development amendments, and these are the following resolutions that will be on the consent agenda, so you can either comment on these, or at least this will help you understand what's in the consent agenda. Resolution 94, which is supporting gun control and mental health services to protect our youth. This is both to raise awareness and our support for protecting our children in as we've come out of the tragedies in Parkland, Florida. This also will authorize the March for Our Lives community send-off on March 24th at 8:30 on the front steps. More to hear, you'll hear about that during discussions. Also, Resolution 95, which is a resolution authorizing contract for Land Conservancy of New Jersey to update open space plan, and that is not to exceed $10,000. Resolution 96, authorizing St. Baldrick's Children's Cancer Event on Waverly Place on Sunday, April 29th. And then Resolution 97, which is approving temporary pinwheel signs for the Thursday Morning Club, and this is to raise awareness for Prevent Child Abuse Month. Resolution 98, which is accepting Justice Assistance Grant Award in the amount of $15,000 for body-worn cameras and related equipment for the Madison police officers. Resolution 99, 2018, resolution awarding contract for purchase of replacement bulletproof vest from Lawman Supply Company under state contract in the amount of $32,500. Resolution 100 is establishing the 2018-2019 utility dividend, which Ms. Bailey already mentioned in her comments. Resolution 101 is approving temporary signs for the Madison Education Foundation 15th Annual 5K Race, which is on May 6, 2018. Resolution 102, 2018 is appointing Thomas Syke to the position of apprentice lineman, and Resolution 103 is appointing Michael Pellissier to position of Communication Technology Coordinator. So if you want to comment on any of those or the agenda discussions, please step forward, state your name, your address, the agenda item you're commenting on, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I'll give you a 1-minute grace period and cut you off at 4. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, after all my words, we move on to the next part of the agenda. So our Board of Education update and security, bring up Chief Datchison and Superintendent Mark Schwartz. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Conley. I have to say what an honor it is to be here. It's also a real honor to be referred to as the relatively new superintendent of schools. So no, I feel like I've been here for quite some time, but I also feel like I've just arrived. So it was my privilege to meet with the Borough Council in executive session. It's my first time actually being here in the chambers in the beautiful Hartley Dodge Memorial Building. But I want to thank Mr. Conley, Mayor Conley, who's been just extremely welcoming to me, very supportive as we look to build a relationship in an era of partnership between the schools and the borough. Mr. Cody has been, we had a really nice time meeting. We've been able to collaborate on couple projects. And of course, Chief Datchison, has been a great support for us as we deal with really turbulent times in our schools with concerns for safety and security. So I want to begin by saying, obviously, all of our hearts and prayers go out, our thoughts and prayers go out to the community of Parkland, Florida. And schools across the nation are grappling with the uncertain matter of school security. When we look at statistics, we can be assured by the fact that school shootings are rare. But when we hear of school shootings, they don't feel rare, especially when we see them in the media as often as we do. And when we look closely at our schools, it's very easy to feel vulnerable in that we don't have a TSA kind of entry point at our school where we do full metal screenings, and we don't have armed security guards around our schools, even though our children are our most precious assets. So we have to ask ourselves, what can we do to improve school security? Well, on the same week that the shooting happened, actually prior to the shooting, I had actually reached out to Chief Datchison for an opportunity to meet to discuss, as we go into our budget season with the Board of Education, what kind of improvements we should be considering based on his experience with the district. So obviously, being here since August, I've obviously made some observations myself. And we have a school security team that meets several times a year, and we've identified some improvements. So we had a standing meeting to be able to discuss some strategies for making our schools safer. In addition to that meeting, we actually had a school safety team meeting set up for the Tuesday after, again because we needed to reconvene and plan before we go into the budget process. As it was, the events unfolded on Wednesday, and by Friday I was in Chief Datchison's office with Officer Galgano, our school resource officer, and I'm going to forget it again, Detective Goskowski. Did I say that correctly? I got it. All right. And we had a really positive conversation, and I found it very uplifting in that we had. Coming from different backgrounds and different communities prior to my arrival to Madison, we had drawn many of the same conclusions from attending workshops, listening to specialists in the area of school security, and school security data. And that is that some of the most important things that we can do, there's a variety of important things that we can do. So we started to identify some immediate changes that we can make to improve our security, some medium-term improvements, and then some long-term improvements. Most importantly and first and foremost, what we can do as a school community and as an entire community is be really cognizant that we have eyes and ears everywhere. We are a community, and we communicate. And whether it be children with their parents, or whether it be children with each other, or whether it be our teachers interacting with their students, there are eyes and ears everywhere. And when we emphasize to all of our community members that we all have a responsibility to report behavior and report anything that seems suspicious or potentially dangerous, that it is in the community's best interest. And so we've emphasized, if you see something, say something, but I've really upgraded that to if you see something, do something. So if you happen to pass by a school, you happen to see a door propped open, I hope that you never do. Everyone knows that you shouldn't, but mistakes happen sometimes. Call the front office. If you hear about someone saying something that just seems off or seems scary, reach out, call someone, call the police, call the school. We're here to make sure that we can intervene. And recently, I sent out a joint correspondence from Chief and I regarding an incident that we had in the school where we did have a student who who we felt was important that we notify the school community about, because a decision was made to share some communications that really rose to the level of a threat to another school district. It was students acting out and saying that they observed this behavior that brought it to the authorities' attention, and a prompt investigation ensued. And as a result of that, the student was able to find help. We were able to maintain the security of our schools and take swift action. When we know that there is any kind of warning sign, we place it as a top priority to investigate and find out if there's any reasons for any kind of concern. We'd rather investigate a false alarm than miss a true warning sign. In addition to that, of us being very vigilant in that respect, we also, most importantly, want to create a maximally inclusive school community. There are a tremendous amount of common factors in school shooters. Most of the time, they are people who are associated with the school. Most of the time, they are students or former students of the school. And in almost all circumstances, they exhibit some type of warning sign in advance of this happening. We need to create the most positive school culture we possibly can, the most inclusive school culture that we possibly can, so that we don't give students the opportunity to find themselves ostracized, to find themselves without friends, to find themselves on the butt end of joking or bullying or any type of behavior like that. We need to create schools that ubiquitously value inclusiveness and belonging and kindness. And we have great schools. Our students are great students, but they are just like any other students, just like any other kids. I'm sure there's not a person in this room who at some point in their lives hasn't said something unkind to someone. It's human nature. But when we create in school environments that are explicitly intolerant of unkindness, that are explicitly inclusive of everyone, where random acts of kindness are the norm, and where inclusive practices, where we identify someone who might be different or someone who might not have friends, but our students reach out to bring that child in, and our staff members identify that student as someone who might need help, or our staff members might actually change groupings in a class to try and promote new friends developing for those students who maybe who don't have the strongest support base. Those are the kinds of activities that are going to create an extremely positive school culture and substantially reduce any potential threat from inside our organization. Then, of course, when we think about potential threats outside of our organization, obviously the most important thing that we think about is our security of the fortitude of our buildings. So we're looking at medium and long-term solutions to further fortify our buildings by creating vestibules and spaces whereby when someone enters the building, they do not have immediate and direct access to the school. For those of you who are familiar with our buildings, not all of our facilities have that. So for the time being, as an immediate solution, one of the things that we want to do is dramatically increase our rigor by which we screen people who come into the school specifically during the school day. Now, this would be a cultural shift. We value having inclusive schools and schools where people in the community feel welcome, but if our children are our most precious commodity, our most precious asset, we need to protect them. And that means that we need to step up our procedures at the door so that way we're not just having a situation where someone buzzes and says, oh, I'm here for so-and-so, or I just have something to drop off. That we know that people who come to the school have a verifiable reason for coming to the school. And this is going to be a community shift for us. But there's going to be a new expectation moving forward, and we're going to be announcing information on this, and we'll talk about a rollout for when this is going to happen. But where people are not going to be allowed into the school building unless they have a verifiable appointment or a reason to pick up their child, such as the school nurse has contacted them and they need to pick up their child. And we need to train our staff for how to do that. We also intend to have vetting procedures so that way when someone does buzz in and they are explaining what the reason that they're there, that we can verify who that person in fact is. And then escorting procedures to make sure that if someone's coming in the building, they're going where they need to go. So in our executive session, someone made a comment, and it was totally fitting that, you know, with an increase in security, sometimes comes the sense that there's a little bit less freedom. And we're not talking about the freedom of our students, but the freedom of the community to enter the school is going to be somewhat restricted. And that's something that I think we should all be really happy to forego, knowing that the only people who are going into the school buildings have a verifiable reason to do so. The last piece that we're doing in terms of security is dramatically increasing our capacity to respond to any potential critical issues. So we already have monthly security drills. All of our staff and students are rehearsed in lockdown procedures. But in order to enhance our ability to respond, we're allocating funds right now through some reserve funds that we have to increase the number of cameras that we have in our school, and also to increase our security monitoring software, so our camera software that records and runs live feed, to be, we're going to upgrade that system so that it will have a remote access presence. Currently, our current system sits on our server, and it cannot be accessed remotely by the police. We want our police to be able to patch into our cameras rapidly and quickly should there ever be a need to. So these are immediate security improvements that we're engaging at this time. We're also allocating funds to invest to conduct training with our staff so that they can be trained in more flexible responses than a pure lockdown. So we're looking currently right now at the ALICE system for those who are familiar with it, but it basically provides for a system whereby a command center can be set up rapidly in a school, God forbid there were to be an emergency, and then announcements can be called out to identify and track wherever the threat is. So that way if students are in their classroom, if they're somewhere in the school where they might be immediately temporarily safe in their room, but they have the option to flee if the threat in the school, that there would be a system whereby they could get that information and make the decision to flee and find safety. And this is actually a system that was recommended by Chief Datchison and something that I've been following for quite some time and have already done some initial training with myself. There's some other factors that we're looking into for long-term solutions. There are different kinds of gunshot sensors in schools that can trigger an immediate lockdown. There are panic buttons that can trigger an immediate lockdown, and we're going to be continuing to explore all of those. But I just wanted to certainly have a chance to come and share in this time when this is such a prominent concern on everyone's mind what these measures are that we are currently looking into and have in place. I actually have a newsletter. The storms of the last week have set us off substantially in our schools, obviously. So my newsletter that was supposed to go out last week has been delayed quite a bit. But I'll be getting it out this week, and I will be detailing this in that newsletter as well. But school security, the heaviness of that topic aside, I just want to say how thrilled I am to be here in Madison. This is such an amazing community. We have such a supportive base of parents and community members, such as supportive borough. We have a fantastic Board of Education that is highly committed to our students. We have a couple of our members here. We have Mrs. Habib and Mrs. Ellis, and we have one of our former members, Mrs. Cohen. And we have just a community that is united in the purpose of seeing our students achieve and reach their maximum potential. And it's an honor to be here and to serve, and it's an honor to partner with all of you as we come up with as many collective efficiencies as possible. I know we were just speaking about that with Chief Datchison before, and I've spoken about that with Mr. Cody, but also to come up with as many creative solutions to the challenges that face our community and also face our students as we prepare them for an uncertain future, but one that we want to make bright and exciting for them. So thank you all very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Chief, would you like to add?
He's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, I was thinking that myself.
But the superintendent pretty much summed it all up. Obviously, we can't get into the nuts and bolts of our emergency security plans, but it is a collaborative effort. And I just want to thank our superintendent for being so open and, able to speak to him about so many issues so early on. We had some great productive meetings so far. Obviously, like he discussed, it's going to be a multi-tiered approach. Some things we can help right away. Enhance policies and procedures, and there's other things that are going to, have budgetary constraints, things that we're going to have to plan for the future. Technology, big one. I know he had discussed the camera interoperability with the borough camera system that we're looking into. That's very important. Obviously, if there was a critical incident at the high school, that interoperability is extremely important for our data, for our responding officers. But there's many things that can be done for the security of our children. I don't consider them your children. I consider them my children. It's our responsibility to protect our kids. And Superintendent Schwartz has my full cooperation. Anything we can do to increase security at our schools. Our schools are safe, but there's always room for improvements. And I'm not going to stand up here saying that we have all the answers, but in a collaborative effort, we can come up with those solutions.
Thank you. And another difficult act to follow. I think when Mark Schwartz came on board, we had a conversation about getting you to a council meeting so you could introduce, and you just don't know what the topic will be. So this is, as you pointed out, a very heavy subject, but it is very important for everyone to understand, just as you just heard from our superintendent, our police chief, the safety of our children is top priority, and we'll be working together at every possible level to make sure that happens. Any questions or comments from the council?
If I can,
Yep.
I would just like to thank you very much, Mark, for coming over and spending time with us and explaining how aggressive you are about taking care of the safety programs in the schools. I think both your actions and our Resolution 94 here indicate to us that we really do need to keep this in the forefront of our consciousness, that we need to focus on it continuously. I would hate for anybody to say in Madison, oh, this is Madison, nothing's going to happen here. That's not the case. Okay, we've got to keep it there, so thank you very much for that, both of you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, and thanks for taking time of your evening to be here. Number 2 item, Shade Tree Management Board presentation. We have our chair, Jean Krakovia. Thank you, Jean, for coming out tonight. And I don't know if your report changed over the last week or so, but obviously our trees have taken a hit.
Yes. First of all, Camilla suggested that once a year we come before the council and give you an update of what we have done in the past and what some of our challenges are. So I think that's an excellent idea, and this is that report. I do suggest, though, that maybe we do the report in June next year when the trees are beautiful, not after a storm. All right? It's tough to come and talk about trees when you go outside and you see lots of damage to our trees. So let me just talk about the storm a little bit. That's not part of the prepared talk, but if you do go outside, you do see some trees have fallen and they've been removed. There's a lot of what we call hangers, of branches that have been broken and dangling. The way we're approaching that, well, first of all, any emergency is coming in directly either through the police department to DPW, and they're being addressed immediately. All right. So some of the branches that were actually on wires obviously have been removed, and anything that's been in the way of roads have been removed. And so the emergency ones are really coming not through the Shade Tree Board, but through the standard process of police or DPW directly. There's a number of processes that we have in place to track the dangling branches. Right now, DPW is creating a list of people calling in. So residents are very cognizant of seeing damaged branches, and now they have a long list of places that we need to go investigate. What we have instituted and which we continue to do yearly is what we call a windshield survey. What that means is that we divide the community into 4 quadrants, and we have teams of Shade Tree Board members that go and visit every street and look at every tree on every street. And we usually do that twice a year. We're instituting that starting this week, and we'll continue for the next week or two to try to get the list of all the hangers, okay? And then we start to go down and start to, submit it to our vendor to remove. So some of the trees look like they're going to have to be removed. And so we don't know what that number is yet, and I'm working with Ken O'Brien on that. We'll hope we'll save them just with pruning, but a number of trees I think will have to be removed. Just as a comparison, Sandy, we lost about maybe 30 or 40 more than the normal trees. We usually take down about 120 trees a year. When Sandy came, we had to take down about 150 trees. So we're expecting a little more increase in the number of trees we'll have to remove. Okay? I'll open up any questions at the end if you have on the current storm. There is a report. Hopefully it's in your packets. It's two-sided. Based on the leadership meeting that Bob had sponsored, what I tried to highlight is things that makes our Shade Tree Board different than, say, ones in other towns. All right? It's a two-sided handout. The back is kind of more detailed, month by month, of what we've done. Gives you lots of numbers. Don't plan to do that. The board has been in existence since 1984, so it's been around a while. It's fully staffed, which for a volunteer organization is an important aspect. We have a good mix of experienced members who have been on maybe 10, 20, 30 years, and we have like 1 or 2 new members every year. So, we are getting some new members, but it's fully staffed. We meet monthly. All the minutes get posted onto the webpage. Thank you, Liz and Lisa. The members are committed, meaning that each of the members really have different assignments and jobs. Every call that comes into DPW for a tree issue is investigated. We investigate on average each year about 120 calls a year, but everyone is investigated and some action is taken upon it. We do meet very often with the Department of Public Works, obviously working right now with how we remedy the current tree situation. But we also meet with the electric department since they have a key activity of doing line clearance. And we work with them because some of the trees that they're going to do some pruning on are old and bad shape, and it's better to remove them. And one of the preventive things we do as you mentioned earlier, when you have a storm like this and we don't get hit like other towns, a lot of it is preventive. And one of the small things we do that helps, I think, in these kinds of weather situations is we are very conscious of what trees we plant under the wires in the future. Many of these trees that are near the wires have been planted 20, 30 years ago, shouldn't have been planted there, have gotten too tall. So now we consciously plant trees that will not reach the electric wires. So therefore, we'll cut down in pruning and cut down in any issues with trees hitting the wires. The other thing that kind of makes us a little different, we were one of the first shade tree organizations in New Jersey that actually did a tree inventory. Did a full tree inventory in 2007, and it's really a guiding tool for what we do in maintaining our trees. So, for instance, when we have the ash tree problem being recognized, we can quickly go to our database, see where all the ash trees are, and do what we think is appropriate with them. We've maintained the database. It's a key tool, and it's a key item that really helps us manage our tree inventory, our street tree inventory. Okay. Another thing I think that makes us a little different is we have good financial support from the council, and we thank you for that. And the reason I bring that up is it certainly allows us to remove trees when they need to be removed, to plant trees, but even more importantly, we have a very active pruning program, and that's what also helps maybe sometimes getting through these storms. You may not realize it, but one of the key times to prune trees is 3 years after they've been planted, because that's what really shapes that tree for the rest of its future. So we actually have a young tree pruning process that I think creates the right tree in the right place for the years to come. And another thing that makes us different is a organization called the Friends of Madison Shade Tree, which is a nonprofit. It's a complimentary organization that helps the Shade Tree Board. I don't know of many other towns that have a very active organization like that. They're very helpful in many ways. They're kind of like our education arm. They do a lot of work on May Day, Arbor Day, Green Forums, education material, Bottle Hill Day. They do fundraising, and with those funds, they help us plant additional trees. And that, again, makes, I think, Madison unique from some of the other towns. Some of the highlights for last year is that we have written and got approved via grant, by the way, our fourth community forest management plan. This is a required plan that we need to have in place to make us registered with the state and supported by the state, and it really guides us for what our goals are for the next 5 years. We have something else I think that's real special with Madison is our Arbor Day celebration. I've been to a number of Arbor Day celebrations throughout other towns, and ours is special because it includes the schools. I don't know other towns where they have school children coming in, writing poems, having musical renditions on trees, dancing going on. It's really special, and I think any other town would come to our Arbor Day, and I think it would be much special. Luckily, it's on May Day, so there's a lot of stuff going on that day. The ash management program in Madison, we've only had really two areas, and as you heard from Camilla at previous council meetings, on Noe and Burnett, they were trees that were not in really good shape. They're going to be prone to be attacked by the emerald ash borer, so those trees have been removed, and I ask you to look forward to the spring when we'll be planting better trees, and trees are really dedicated to that site, both on Burnett and on Noe. 2 or 3 years from now, those roads are going to be beautiful. Baseline on Madison tree canopy. This is something we've been struggling with a little bit, and luckily Drew University, Lisa Jordan, who is a professor there, came and volunteered to use her spatial data expertise and her students to go out and do all the research on all the different layers out there from all the different years back. And now we have a baseline that says that Madison is about 41% tree covered. So now that we have a baseline, we can really measure what happens, years down the line. Good number to have. We transitioned to a cloud-based tree inventory. And what that means now is that we used to be able to have to get out our tree inventory, either it would be on somebody's private computer or private server. But now we actually, with our tree inventory, you can go out in the field with a laptop, a tablet, or even a cell phone, and get out our tree inventory, look at a particular tree, and if it needs to be either pruned or something happens, we can actually enter right then and there what needs to be done. And so we have almost real-time ability to update our inventory out in the field. So that's a real advantage to us, I think. Some challenges. We did have, I know, those of you who are a member of volunteer groups, usually if a member's been if somebody's been a member for 27 years, and they tend to do a lot of the routine stuff. We had one of those people, Penny Gorman, who just retired, and we're still finding out things that she used to do that we didn't know she did. So we're transitioning from that, and I think we'll do well. But you don't really appreciate somebody who had done all that work until they're gone. We plant about 105, maybe 120 trees, depending on the year. But we get a number of residents who say, please don't plant a tree. And that could be in the number of like 20 to 25 places. And it's really disconcerting that if, we think the tree should be there and a resident says, no, I don't want it. And rather than have them not care for it, we do find other places, so we do plant that number. But we really are trying much harder to educate, our residents that there's really a good reason to have that tree there. And the value of your property and the value to the community. So this year, one of our challenges is to lower that number of rejects down to something much smaller than it has been. The protecting of borough trees during construction, we've been challenged by that a number of times. Especially borough trees, there's all sorts of guidelines, but we still find that when construction is happening, either on a new home or in a rehab of a home, that those trees are not being protected properly. And the problem with that is 2 or 3 years down the line, that tree is going to die, and then the town has to pick up the cost of replacing it. So we're, again, trying to much actively work harder to identify those trees that need to be protected, and we have some ideas on how to do that better. But sometimes it might be better just to remove that tree and replace it. So that's one of our challenges. Ash trees, managing the ones in the street. We do know we have a bunch of ash trees in Memorial Park and in Summerhill Park. What we've done as of today is at least go down the trails and make sure none of the ash trees along the trails are damaged. But I think we need this year to try to get a better handle of how many ash trees we have and what we should do with them in the parks. Our large trees, even though we have this 41% number, we're still tending to lose on private property some of our large canopy trees. We found a study recently that's been in some of our literature, which basically says that we planted our new trees are about 2.5 inches in diameter, but if you lose one 25-inch tree, the value that it contributes equals to about 189, I think the number is, 2.5-inch trees. So, we lose one 25-inch tree. It's going to take that many smaller trees to match the value, and the value being the oxygen, the gases removed, and the heating and cooling benefits of it. So again, in our literature, we try to emphasize, please try to save the big trees. Please try to save the big trees. The last two items, as you know, we are working in Summerhill Park with some ideas on how to get better value out of that park. One small thing we're working on is creating a arboretum type idea up in the top portion. We've already started down that by clearing all the dead trees and planting some nice specimen trees. And so our phase 2 there is to come up with a more detailed plan of what specimen trees should be planted in that small top area. And then the last item that we're working with, the more general idea is Tom Salaki came to this council, I think, a couple of council meetings ago to give him a general what could happen in Summerhill Park, and to work with him and that team to get now the residents involved and get some more planning done. So we actually create a plan, which as opposed to just ideas. So that's what we're doing in 2018.
Gene,
questions, comments?
Thank you for a great report and appreciate your leadership and all the effort that the Shade Tree Management Board has been doing. I just want to tell one quick story. I had a conversation with a council member from a neighboring town today. He was asking if Madison Electric could move in and take over his town. I said that won't help. So the conversation quickly shifted to what other things we can do. And I used your example you just talked about is start off by being mindful of the street trees you plant, by making sure you're not creating a problem or creating these eventual V trees. So it shows the forward thinking of our Shade Tree Management Board. It's a great job. John, any other questions or?
Very thorough, thank you.
Yep, and Carmela, thank you for taking the lead and bringing the committee.
Next June, we'll give the next report, okay?
All right.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the next item. We already mentioned a little bit about this for the, as I described the resolutions. It is our March for Our Lives community send-off. And this is, as many of you are aware, that on March 24th, there is going to be a march in Morristown at 11 a.m. to coincide with the marches across this country, especially the one in Washington, D.C., and with the urging of many of our residents, in particular our students, a feeling that Madison should do something at the local level. And so the idea is to have a gathering here in the morning on the plaza of Hartley Dodge to send off either those who are going to the march or have the figurative send-off of those who want to go out in the community to talk about saving the lives of the youth of this world, of cutting down on gun violence. So as I'm trying to pull up my notes here, excuse me. Just a couple of things that are on the agenda, and then we'll have a resolution to approve this. The event's going to be from 8:30 to about 9:45 at the latest. So those that are taking the train to Morristown can catch the 10:19 train. We have speakers lined up with a heavy emphasis on students. We hope to have a Drew student, a Madison High School student, a Madison Junior School student all speak. We'll have a teacher speaking, mayor speaking, and also have commitment from Assemblyman John McKeon, not only our representative to the State House, but also someone who is taking the lead in reasonable gun laws in the state. New Jersey does lead the way for reasonable gun regulations, but we don't sit back and just let it happen. We need to make sure we stay aggressive in that. So any other thoughts or questions from the council on the... Okay, so
Great idea.
So I encourage everyone to spread the word. It'll be, again, March 24th, starting at 8:30. And let's join together in such a great effort. And this will be Resolution 94 on our consent. Okay, land development amendments. Ostrey.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor. Our planner and our planning board engineer got together and they proposed the changes that we have here tonight in two sections of our land use code. The first one involves a new requirement for applicants to post a restoration bond if the project is abandoned so we can restore the site to maintain public safety. So that's the first change. And the second change, amendment to Chapter 195, refines the role of the TCC with emphasis on technical review, consideration of waivers, and design input. And it removes the technical coordinating committee as an entity that deems applications complete. So they had started doing this, and they're just now making sure that we've put it into law. They're refining the process of deeming applications for development complete to better reflect case law on time of application and completeness. This process currently occurs through the TCC rather than earlier in the submission process. The proposed amendments address the timing and process for deeming applications complete. This is all really technical stuff. Then we have new borough checklists A through F to update the current checklists, which are out of date, and to address change in completeness procedures. None of these checklists were on computers. It's all pieces of paper that were handed. So now we're doing all this the right way and getting up to the 21st century. The checklists relate to various application types and are updated to reference current code requirements and to incorporate tools we have been using over the past few years, such as the preliminary environmental checklist. Please note that checklist B also provides a much shorter list of required element in cases where homeowners in residential districts are seeking variance relief only for a fence or a deck. And the checklist C, there's shaded areas on that checklist that indicate an abbreviated set of requirements for minor subdivisions without variances. Those checklists aren't part of these ordinance changes, but they are accompanying them when we make these changes tonight. Okay?
Thank you. And a lot of great work there. And just a quick comment on the side benefit. As you mentioned, our checklists were never on a computer. One of my pet peeves was the fact that the checklist being used was like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They always looked old. I couldn't understand how.
Yeah. I think they were originally run off of a mimeograph machine. So
That's amazing.
So thank you. And so this is ordinances 12 and 13, which are listed for an introduction tonight.
Okay.
Now, any other questions or comments from the council? I also, as I see Claire walk back in, that as you saw, had a presentation from one committee. We will, I think we have it slated for the next meeting for the Environmental Commission to do a presentation. So this is a great idea to have our committees come before us to share what the great things are going on.
I'll be more.
Okay, ordinance for hearing. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Ordinance Ordinances scheduled for hearing were introduced by title and passed on first reading at the regular meeting of the council held Monday, February the 26th, 2018. All were posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to the general public requesting same.
I call up ordinances for second reading. Ask the clerk to read said ordinances by title. Ordinance 9-2018.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $30,000 from the Electric Capital Improvement Fund for purchase of 2 utility truck bodies and accessories.
I open the hearing for ordinance 9. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 9-2018.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 9-2018 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 10-2018.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $200,000 from the Electric Capital Improvement Fund for the purchase of utility meters.
I open the hearing for ordinance 10. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 10-2018.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 10-2018 adopted and finally passed. I ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 11-2018.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $200,000 from the Water Utility Capital Fund Reserve for automated meter reading for the purchase of utility meters and accessories.
I open the hearing for ordinance 11. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, I close the hearing.
Mayor, I move ordinance 11-2018.
Second.
Any council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 11-2018 adopted and finally passed. I ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. And now we're on to the second of 2 invitations for discussion. This is when you may comment on any topic, but the same rules stand. Please step up the lectern, state your name, your address, write the same on the clipboard, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes, but I'll give you a 1-minute grace period and ask you to stop at 4. Anyone wishing to comment, please step forward. Seeing none, I close this part of the meeting and we move on to introductions of ordinances.
The ordinance is scheduled for first reading, have a hearing date set for March the 26th, 2018. Will be published in the Madison Eagle, posted on the bulletin board, and made available to members of the public requesting copies.
I call up ordinances for the first reading. I ask the Borough Clerk to read said ordinances by title.
Ordinance 12, 2018 is an ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 195 of the Madison Borough Code entitled Land Development to clarify and provide necessary amendments to conform to the municipal land use law.
Ostry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I move ordinance 12-2018. You're ahead of me.
I'll second.
Any further council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Yes.
Ordinance 13-2018.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Chapter 195 of the Borough Code entitled Land Development to clarify and provide necessary amendments to conform to the municipal land use law.
I move ordinance 13-2018.
I'll second.
Any further council discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Ordinance 14-2018.
She's going to read it.
Right at the bottom there?
Sorry, there you go. Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $600,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for Harley Dodge Memorial Plaza site work improvements and related work.
Mayor, I move ordinance 14-2018.
I'll second that.
Any council discussion? And this project being supported by grants also. Okay, roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda resolution. Will the clerk please read the statement?
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Mayor, I move resolutions R94-2018 to R103-2018.
Second.
Any discussion or any that need to be pulled? Roll call vote, please.
Vitale?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Hoover?
Yes.
Okay, there is no unfinished business. Approval of vouchers. Clerk, please read the voucher roll.
Current fund at $3,481,301.49. The electric operating fund, $107,973.69. Water operating fund, $7,528.14. And the trust, $12,182.62. Total is $3,608,985.94.
Mayor, I move approval of the vouchers.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Hoover?
Yes.
There is no new business.
Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Second, and all in favor?
Second.
Aye.
All right, thank you all, and
Thank you.
let's hope for good weather.
I gotta tell Matt.
It would have been much quicker if I hadn't come.
Yeah, you should have stayed away. They're going to kick that resolution back.
The one that they had
The grant period, that was, they asked for two specific things, that's one of them.